Hi, my topic is 2.3 economic surplus. And beginning off with defining surplus, surplus is when the quantity of items supplied is greater than the quantity demanded by consumers, which leads to unsold inventory. So, an example of this is in with our market of t-shirts. If a t-shirt manufacturer creates or produces around 1,000 t-shirts because they think they'll be in high demand, but then that trend doesn't end up happening. So therefore, consumers are only willing to buy 400 t-shirts. So this therefore then leaves the t-shirt manufacturer with an extra 600 unsold t-shirts, and that would be their market surplus. Moving on to consumer surplus on the graph. So our consumer surplus is above the equilibrium price but below the demand curve, and it is the difference between how much buyers are willing to pay and the price they actually do pay for a product, and it's also the benefit consumers receive from paying a price lower than their maximum willingness. So for example, a consumer could be willing to spend $30 on a t-shirt, but the asking price is only $20, so this would give the consumer a surplus of $10 in the difference. Moving on to producer surplus, this is below the equilibrium price, but above the supply curve. And this is the difference between the price and how much the seller is willing to sell the product for. It is also the benefit producers receive from getting a higher price than their minimum acceptance price. So further explaining that, that's when the t-shirt manufacturer creates a t-shirt and their total cost for making that was $10. So that's the minimum they would accept for a consumer to buy their t-shirt, but they actually do end up selling it for $20. So that difference would get the manufacturer to gain a producer surplus of $10 in the difference. And then moving on to calculating the area of consumer surplus, this is just looking at the triangle and plugging into our formula. So our base would be the quantity, and in this case would be 5. And then the height would be the consumer surplus we found earlier, which is the difference. Plugging that in, and you would get your consumer surplus. And then finally, what happens to consumer surplus when there's an increase in demand for a product? So looking at our graph, we would take our demand and shift it to the right, which is increasing, and our equilibrium points would then shift outwards. So our price increases as well as our quantity. And since these shift out, the area for our consumer surplus also increases. And as this area continues to expand, as consumers are willing to pay more for a large quantity of the good. So ultimately, when demand increases, so does our consumer surplus because of the area. Thank you.